The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to the show, all Cherries fans, Hibs fans, Lorient fans, Auckland fans, and I'm sure there's going to be some others that are going to be watching as well, as Bill Foley extends his empire. Now, we do have, of course, Mr. Matthew Harrison beside me. How you doing, Matthew?
Yeah, all good, Craig. Yeah, looking forward to this one. So, yeah, should be a good one.
Excellent, fantastic. And we do have a special guest. He's not been on here before, but it is a pleasure to welcome on Matty from the Long Bangers podcast. How you doing?
I'm very good, yeah. Enjoying some nice weather for a wee change up here in Scotland.
You saying it's not sunny and hot at the moment?
It's sunny and hot just now, but this has been our summer. It's been the last 3 days. Like before that, it's been grey and wet, so I've been enjoying it.
To be honest, it's not been much better down here, has it? Really, Matt?
No, it's had its moments, isn't it? But yeah, not
it's
been
been
great.
a bit of a crap summer, hasn't it? But what we'll do is we will get stuck into it. And of course, like I say, this is a special cherry picking show where we will be talking about Bill Foley's investment in clubs. So I tell you what, let's start off with Guess the Cherry, because that is, of course, our regular input. So let me go through that. Matt, I'll tell you what, you do it again. You do the honours.
What the clues? Okay, yep. So this week's Guess the Cherry was born in February 1992, signed by Eddie Howe from Coventry. He played 187 times for Bournemouth, scoring 67 goals. Made his first senior appearance for England while at Dean Court, scoring in the 77th minute against the USA, and was part of England's 2022 World Cup squad. So, pretty easy one this week.
Yeah, it is a bit of an easy one. Leave your comments in the description box below about who you think it may be. So, like I say, we're going to get on to Bill's football empire, and he is building up his portfolio quite nicely. So what we'll do is we'll run through, of course, ourselves, Lorient, Hibernian, and of course Auckland City FC, which are, I believe, are they a fairly new side, are they?
I believe that they're a side that they're sort of on the come up again, isn't it? I think they've been a team, and I think he's invested to get them into the A-League or something like that. There is a history behind it.
I think they're a brand new franchise. I think they started brand new for Bill Foley from scratch, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Well, the man who did take ice hockey to the desert, I was going to say football to the desert there. He probably will try that at some point. Took ice hockey to the desert. You can't rule out what he's going to do. But I tell you what, Matty, let's discuss Hibernian, your club, and what Bill's investment will do for Hibs. So let's run through this. So the Black Knights secured a 25% stake in Hibernian after their 6 million investment proposal was backed at the club's AGM. A special resolution, I should say, was not backed by Hibs' second largest shareholders, Hibernian Supporters Limited, but was approved by the required 75% of the shareholders in attendance at Easter Road. Hibernian say the deal, which required special Scottish FA approval due to the dual interest rules, will allow Bill Foley's Black Knights to help fund development at the club's stadium and training ground, plus increase the first team budget. Hibernian FC Chief Executive Ben Kensell said, "This deal is groundbreaking in Scottish football and the game changing for Hibernian Football Club. So I'm really pleased it was ratified this evening. The Gordon family and I spent months in dialogue with Bill and Black Knight Football Club to ensure they were the right partners for this fantastic club. And during that time, we quickly realised we were totally aligned with our ambitions for Hibernian FC. I'd like to thank the Scottish FA for their openness, transparency, and support in getting this deal agreed. This is a really exciting time for everyone involved with Hibernian FC. The future looks very bright and fans should be excited." So, Foley's investment at Hibs. What I want to run through, Matty, is, well, I'll tell you what, let's start from the very, very beginning, because one thing that Lorient fans showed when Bill Foley invested into them, and I spoke to Nicholas some time ago on this channel as well, was they were not happy at Bill Foley coming in, and effectively they felt that Lorient were a feeder club for AFC Bournemouth. Do Hibs fans feel that way, or do they feel that Bill Foley has got their best interests at heart?
So I think it's early to say that he's got the best interests at heart, although I think from listening to him, I think he has a genuine desire to see Hibs do well. There was the note there about Hibernian Supporters Limited, the second biggest shareholder, voting against the deal, and I think that's a wee bit misleading. What the reason they voted against it wasn't because they were against Bill Foley or the investment, but they exist. The whole point of Hibernian Supporters Limited is they exist to buy shares for fans, and the deal was going to prevent them doing that in the future. So it would have been essentially turkeys voting for Christmas. If the deal went through, that closed the door on HSL from securing future shares. Although ironically, they have since bought some more since the deal went through. So they rejected it on those grounds, but not because they were against the idea of Bill Foley coming in and bringing Black Knights to the table. I think generally the mood was one of excitement. I think his track record in ice hockey is fantastic. They won the Stanley Cup within a couple of years, and the way that he talks about developing, I think he likes to take teams who are not the best and make them the best. That's kind of his MO. And Hibs definitely are not the best in terms of, I think they're the best, right? But objectively, they're not the best. So there's plenty of room for growth there. And I think what gave Hibs fans comfort was the fact that he was coming in as a minority shareholder. So even if Bill Foley wanted us to be a feeder team to Bournemouth, at the moment he can't force that through because our majority shareholder, who are the Gordon family, can veto it. And we saw that in the summer where Bill Foley wanted to put in place a different head coach and a different sporting director, and Hibs went, "No, we're going to look after Hibs first rather than the group," and put their own guys in.
It sounds like the Hibs, fans feel so much happier because to take this away from Bill Foley for a moment, is because they have got the Gordon family in charge there. They've got stable control backing, whereas Lorient, aren't particularly happy with their chairman in the first place, to be perfectly honest. Have you already seen a little bit of investment in the training ground so far?
No, not really. So I think the use of the money that came in, so the 6 million went in straight away as soon as the deal was ratified. Hibs received that. The 6 million went into the account. They immediately started work on revamping the famous 5 stand, which is the one behind the goals where the home fans are. Totally redecked the hospitality there. So I had a chance to see it the other week. That looks absolutely fantastic. They put safe standing in the lower tier, and there's some sort of exec seating at the back of it and everything. So there's been a big investment there, which will generate income. I believe they've purchased some land at the training centre, which they already own a big part of it, to start work on building an indoor training centre there at some point. I think that's maybe due to start next year. But the other stuff there, like you're seeing about player trading, etc., I think we're going to see more of that as time goes by. But we haven't seen so much evidence of that yet.
You've had a couple of players that have come on loan from ourselves. What did you make of them?
A bit of a mixed bag. So we had Emiliano Marcondes, who his first game he came on against Rangers and genuinely looked terrific. I mean, this guy looked like a level above everybody else on the pitch. As the season went on, his effect or his impact sort of diminished a wee bit. He scored a couple of good goals, scored against Hearts, which is always a big plus for Hibs. And he scored a cracking free kick up at St Johnstone. But by the time he got to the end of the season, I think we actually let him go a little bit early. He was away from the club before the season finished. And we brought in Nathan Mariah Welsh, who I think was a youth prospect at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And again, really, really promising to start off with. We signed him permanently. This season, he's kind of struggled to hold down a starting place. I like him as a player, but I just don't know exactly where he fits into the team at the moment.
And of course, there was the talk of Owen Bevan going to Hibs. Are you worried, though, things going potentially the other way? Because to bring up an example of that, Dongo Watara left Lorient and come to ourselves. Now, a lot of Lorient fans feel that it was for a smaller amount than the player was actually worth. Now, I do question that side of things, but are you worried if there is somebody, a promising youngster that really takes off at Hibs, what Bill Foley will do is effectively force the hand of Hibs?
Nah, I'm not worried. So if I give you an example, John McGinn. So John McGinn, we signed from St Mirren for a relative pittance, about 100 grand, something like this, with a promise of a sell on to St Mirren to secure the signing. John McGinn had a couple of great seasons for us, and by the time he left Hibs, he was ready definitely to take the next step in his career and go up a level. Hibs wouldn't have been able to hold on to John McGinn. But it wouldn't have mattered whether it was Aston Villa who eventually got him, Celtic were after him, but John McGinn had plenty of suitors. And that tends to be the case with Hibs. We saw it with Ryan Porteous last season. He went to Watford. Kevin Nisbet went to Millwall, and with the greatest respect to Watford and Millwall, these aren't footballing giants. Bournemouth, without the relationship with Hibs, if Bournemouth wanted to take a Hibs player, they could come in and take them, and the player would go because Bournemouth can pay the money and they can pay the wages, and Hibs wouldn't stand in the player's way. So I think in practical terms, it doesn't really make much difference. We might get a little bit less for him, but at the same time, I think the plus side is the players that come into our club as part of this deal will be much better than the ones that we could normally afford anyway. So it's a wee bit the yin and the yang of the relationship, isn't it? But I don't think practically it makes that much difference.
Bournemouth are building at the moment a magnificent training ground at Camford Magna. And one of the talks is that it will, or they're going to aim for Category 1 status. Now, what that would mean is that we'll be able to attract the best talent out there. And I guess that is a big, big draw for Hibs, for these young players who are obviously, it's not to be honest, years ago, Matty, and I remember players used to go to Southampton because they had the academy, they had the setup there. They might even go a little bit further afield as well, to the likes of Reading, Arsenal, Chelsea, you name all those teams with Category 1 academies. The good thing is we'll be able to attract those players now. And we've got quite a good catchment area. So is that something in particular that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I think so. One of the trends that we've seen in Scottish football over the last few years, in particular since Brexit happened, because it's harder to bring players in from the continent now, particularly for English clubs where the bar's a bit higher for work permits, is English clubs pay a lot more attention to the youth scene in Scotland. So whereas before Hibs, Hearts, Celtic, Rangers might have had the pick of the best young players in Scotland, now these players are into Man City's academies, Arsenal academies, or Bournemouth or wherever at a very early age. So the youth, the level of the youth player coming through at Scottish clubs is lower now because the best ones are already in the system in England. So having an avenue to get some of that talent back, or talent in from elsewhere to come up to Scotland through the relationship with Bournemouth is it's a big tick for us, definitely.
I've never been to Easter Road. I've got to be honest. I've never been to Easter Road, but all I know is it's a bit bigger than Dean Court. To be honest, most places are, to be fair. But what sort of work needs to be done there?
So the stadium is more or less done and dusted. I mean, you could pick up a few cosmetic things, like say they put safe standing in and revamped some of the hospitality. And I think if and when this sells out, that hospitality, I think they'll look to kind of upgrade some of the other stands as well. But in terms of size, it's a good size for Hibs, just over 20,000 capacity, which is about right for us. For the very biggest games, you maybe struggle for a ticket, but most weeks, if you wanted a ticket, and you should go Easter Road, by the way, it's a good stadium, and these would be made very welcome there. But I think in terms of that, we have a hybrid pitch. They've invested the money in that. The stands are all fairly modern, and the training centre itself is pretty modern as well. The only thing that we're really missing is a proper first-class indoor facility up there, which I think that's what they're trying to planning to build.
Matt, what do you think of this this connection with Hibs? Because I think it's a great thing. I think Hibs are a side who, I know that you did get to the qualifying round in Europe, but a team which is capable of, going on a bit of a European run in one of the competitions. I know that the problem I always see with, and sorry to say this, Matty, but the problem I see with Scottish football is you've got Celtic and Rangers, and those two have got so much more resource that it kind of blocks off probably that Champions League place. But you do have, the options of the other European competitions, and I think that is perfect, for some of these youngsters that are making the step up to get a taste of that for a good club.
Yeah. I mean, from my opinion, obviously, I'm not going to say I know lots about Hibernian or anything, but in terms of Foley's vision for not only our club, but looks like for most, Lorient and if he takes over this new Portuguese one as well, is that he seems to want them all to be competing in UEFA competitions, doesn't he?
Yes.
And I think Hibs are probably slightly more equipped than Bournemouth to maybe compete. I think they maybe potentially have an easier route in, maybe. I'm not too sure. But I think that the connection with Hibs is going to be good for both clubs, definitely. And you can see, from what Matty's saying about the hospitality. I mean, what was one of the first things Foley said when he came to Bournemouth was that he was going to massively improve the match day experience. And when we go to Dean Court now, you can tell. I mean, look how many more bars we've got. The hospitality and the catering is 10 times better than it was. And that's what the Americans are all about, aren't they? When they go to these sporting events, it is all about hospitality, isn't it? And that's something that he has massively improved at Bournemouth. But I think on the long term, I think it's going to be very, very beneficial for Bournemouth and for Hibs to be in part of this football network.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Matty, for Bill Foley to be seen as a success, what needs to happen on the pitch?
Well, it'll be that European football. That's really the sort of the benchmark. So Hibs, even prior to Foley's involvement, targeted fourth place, which gets you the Europa League qualifier. As a minimum, like that's kind of where we aim for. Unfortunately, we've not been very good the last couple of seasons. So, although we competed in it at the start of last year, this year we were miles off it. But I think I totally agree with what Matt says in terms of being well positioned and having an easier route into it. So we definitely won't get Champions League because Celtic are out on their own. Even Rangers at the moment can't get close to Celtic. So positions 1 and 2 are taken up, and then it's a sort of a straight fight really between Hibs, Hearts, and Aberdeen if they all get their act together for the third and fourth spots. But it wouldn't take a huge investment to get us there. It's not like we're in England where for Bournemouth to get there, you're going to have to go past some really big clubs and even some new clubs who are only just sort of finding themselves like say Brighton, etc., who will all sort of fancy getting into those positions. In Scotland, you just need to spend a wee bit and have a bit of luck, and you'll get that fourth place, and then you're into the European football. And the aim is to get it consistently. So I think for Foley to be seen as a success, it will be kind of consecutive years that Hibs getting into Europe and maybe opening up a bit of gap on the other similarly sized clubs to us.
So I see, Craig, I could see, Hibs, having European football and consistent European football way before we do, personally. I think with Foley's involvement up there. But I mean, this that's listed here, this was from when Foley first invested, I think it was 6 million. Was it 6 million?
It was, 6 million.
So apparently the 6 million was going to help fund some of this that's listed here. But obviously I know we've touched on Easter Road a little bit and the training ground, but have you seen any of the money seem to be spent elsewhere, like with the women's infrastructure and the women's teams and like just the strategy for the club moving forward? Have you seen any money elsewhere amongst the club?
Not so much. So the women's team have been brought into the main training centre. It's called HTC, the Hibernian Training Centre. So they've gone in there as a sort of permanent home, and because they're in there now, that's kind of pushed the need for the investment there. So that work's underway, and they brought them in already. But I know, I think there's a guy, Tim Bezbachenko, who's just brought in as the Black Knight president. He's spent some time at Easter Road fairly recently talking to Malcolm Mackay, who's our sporting director, and they've started to look at all the things about how the sports science, how the scouting, what coaching methods, etc., and all that sort of best practice that the clubs are going to get together. How that will look as the group evolves. But I think the thing to remember with this is the whole group is pretty embryonic, isn't it? I mean, he's not been in Bournemouth very long. He's not been in Lorient very long. Auckland, they're in their first season now. He's not bought this Portuguese club yet that he's looking at. So I think the whole thing is right at an early stage, and it's probably going to be a bit of time before we properly see the benefits of it.
Definitely. I think Craig. Sorry, you're going to say something, Craig. Sorry.
No. I was going to say, of course, I want to touch upon something else as well that has been mentioned. And supposedly there was a bit of a rift at Hibernian. So this is just what we got here. So Executive Director Ian Gordon insists Hibernian's relationship with Black Knight Group has not been damaged by claims that the club did not listen to the investor when appointing head coach David Gray and sporting director Malky Mackay. Billionaire Bournemouth owner Bill Foley's consortium became a minority shareholder in the Scottish Premiership club, pledging 6 million earlier this year. But he told BBC Scotland in July that Hibs owners were more likely to listen to his output only after their Premier Sport Cup defeat by Kelty Hearts. Now, owner Gordon, in a Sky Sports interview in which he admitted his own previous appointment as head of recruitment was a mistake, said there have been discussions since then and the relationship is in a good place. I think it's been very well reported that on the hiring of our manager and sporting director, Black Knight was very involved in that process throughout. It was a very thorough process, but when it came down to it, the family and the board felt it was in the best interest to make the appointments that we did. Gordon, who took control after the death of his father in 2023, explained that they initially tried a different way of recruitment. I think we got that wrong, said the 34-year-old. And now through those lessons, it's got us to a point where having someone like Melky with his Scottish experience and someone like David who knows the club inside out and his Scottish experience was the direction that we needed to get back to. I think we wanted to try to shift the direction in terms of the recruitment, the type of players, but I think as the years have gone on and the more you learn about Scottish football, it's very unique. So we need to have a Scottish experience core that can be filled with certain types of players. So it'll be interesting to get your thoughts on this rift that's happened. Was it of concern, Matty, when this was all announced?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, so the dust has kind of settled on it just now, but at the time, so Hibs were just on the back of this defeat to Kelty Hearts in the Premier Sports Club. Now, to put in context, Kelty Hearts come from a town which is like your sort of two-horse town. It is a tiny wee place, a stadium that holds a couple of hundred people. Kelty Hearts should never really be beating Hibs. So folk were already a bit angsty, and then this came out. It was almost the next day where Bill Foley says, "Look, they've not listened to us," and then everybody lost their mind about it. They were like, "Well, this is great. We've jumped into bed with this billionaire. We've kind of agreed to be part of a multi-club setup, and then immediately just decided this wasn't for us, and are not listening to them." But as time's gone on, there's been a bit more understood about what the situation was. Obviously, it was this with Malcolm Mackay and David Gray. The club priority, they'd done a review. They had seen that to be successful in Scotland, you generally need some Scottish experience. And so they felt at the time of the appointment, it was more important to bring in that type of experience than to go down the route of bringing in a group appointed sporting director and head coach, which is their one. There was a wee bit of a sort of almost a reminder that Bill Foley is a minority shareholder. He only has 25% of Hibs, and although he's just whacked in 6 million, it's still a lot less than Ian Gordon and his family have put in. So I think when the dust settled on it, and you've got majority shareholders who did what was best for the club at that time, and then it came out, sort of the interviews that Ian Gordon did recently, where he talks about the relationship being good, the stuff about Tim Bezbachenko being on board, his meetings with Malky Mackay, and everything appears to now be functioning the way you would expect it to be functioning and moving in the right direction. I think everybody's a bit more relaxed about it, but it definitely set a few hairs on it.
No, I can imagine. And Kelty Hearts, if I'm right in thinking, they were promoted, was it 3 years ago, I think, to the Scottish Second Division, which was the third division. Of course, you've gone to a model like Championship, League One, League Two, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can understand that, the frustrations there with regards to that. So I'm guessing, from what you've said there, Matty, it's exciting Bill Foley's influence over Hibs.
Yeah, I think so. I think the bigger picture is exciting. I think obviously, they see when the news first comes in, and you will know better because you've seen it, and he's had a much bigger impact already at Bournemouth, the training centre, and I think the stadium's getting redeveloped, isn't it? And or a new one built. And obviously the performance of Bournemouth. So you can see like you have really benefited from it. When the news came that he was getting on board, everybody's like, "Oh wow, we're going to be signing this player and that player and shopping in a different market." And I think as we now understand a bit more about what the relationship actually looks like, I think it is exciting. It's probably not like lose your mind excitement, but it's definitely a more positive place to be now than it was probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah, most definitely, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Bill Foley does get Hibs consistently into Europe and does make a success of the football club. But I'll tell you what, let's touch upon a side that aren't happy with Bill Foley, and this is Lorient. And of course, Nicholas did speak to me some time ago with regards to Lorient, and there was anger, there was frustration. The fans were putting over social media how unhappy they were. Now the thing is I think why they were so unhappy was because they had a gentleman called Loic Ferry at the top. Well, he is still there, of course, but Loic Ferry isn't particularly a popular man himself. Bill Foley's come in, and one of the first things that Bill Foley did at Lorient was actually sell Dongo Batara to Bournemouth. Don't get me wrong, they did get Roman Faver in exchange a little bit later, but Lorient fans, Matt, aren't happy at all, are they? And of course, they've been relegated as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a setback for them, isn't it? Since Foley's gone in there. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of negative stuff on social media from their fan base, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I don't think his impact there has been so successful as it has been at Bournemouth, and how it's potentially looking at Hibernian. So, I'm not too sure on the directorship there, whether he's had similar issues as he may have had potentially at Hibs, where his advice potentially may not have been listened to or what. But it's definitely taken a step backwards since his involvement has been in Lorente, really.
Yeah, they are very, very angry, were very angry, are still very angry by the looks of things. Of course, he took a stake, and again, it's a minority stake in Loriente, in January 2023. And since that time, they've sold a player to Bournemouth. We loaned them one. That player didn't particularly do very well at Lorient, and they got relegated. Do you understand their frustrations, Matty? And does it feel like a bit of a warning sign for Hibs?
I will totally understand the frustrations. I think that they struggle with the sizes of the respective clubs as well, didn't they? The fans they didn't like the idea of being a feeder club. Is there is an element of that amongst the Hibs fans, although I think we recognise there's a huge financial gulf between the Scottish Premier League and the English Premier League now. I mean, they're incomparable. But for Lorient, it's really, I actually found it really difficult to find out what's going on there. If you try to find information about what Foley's impact has actually been like there, other than the transfers, because it was a similar scenario where their majority shareholders sort of retained control. And I think it's only just since they've been relegated that Foley's taken a bigger stake than before, and I think he's going to be pretty much calling the shots now, and would expect to see some improvement. So, really, I think the case study with Lorient comes from this point on, with Foley running it. I think before, what happened to them would have happened with or without Black Knight's involvement.
No, that I can understand your point completely there, because they are a smaller club in Ligue 1, but I guess, and again, there was a lot of anger during the summer because we was linked with their goalkeeper, their Yvonne Mavogo, is his name. I've never heard too much about him. Again, and I completely agree with you, Matty. There's not much information out there about Lorient apart from their fans on X and Facebook, making quite a few sounds which are all negative about against Foley. But the question is, for me, are Lorient able to even sustain? Would they have been able to sustain themselves in Ligue 1, considering the size of the club, if Foley hadn't gone there? That is a big thing for me.
Yeah, it's a very good question, that.
it's something we might need to ask Nicholas about. So no doubt we'll have a chat with him and get the lowdown on Ferry and his finances, and maybe even ask Kieran Maguire. I don't know how much he specialises in French football, but he seems to know everything. So we shall see what he says.
Have they been a bit of a yo-yo club anyway, Lorient? I'm not sure if they've kind of consistently been in the top flight there, or if they have sort of been up and down over the last few seasons.
I think they're a bit of a surprise package, I think, to get in there. I think, don't get me wrong, they've been in Ligue 1 before, but they haven't particularly been solid. I think most of their history has been spent in the second tier of French football, if not lower than that. Just having a look at their domestic honours here, there's not too much. They won the Coupe de France in 2001, 2002, League Two. I don't know what the name of the two is in France, but I know Un's one. But there we are. You learn something new every day. I should have listened, shouldn't I, rather than piss arsing around in my French lessons. But champions in 2019-20. And the Champion National, which is the third tier, they won at the end of the 90s. So they haven't been particularly a solid club in the top flight. They have been there before, their most recent escapades, but they've not been. If you can imagine, what's a good example, Matt? A West Bromwich? No, probably not even a West Bromwich Albion. Probably a Wigan Athletic when they were in the Championship.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, like you say, that I think they've kind of yo-yoed in recent years, haven't they?
Yeah.
But I don't think they were quite established in the French top division as we were in our first spell in the Premier League. I don't think they've kind of done 5 seasons consecutively, have they?
No, I think it got to 3, didn't it?
Yeah, so I think sort of like in the last sort of 10 years, they've been a bit of a yo-yo club, haven't they?
Yeah, they have been. So, hopefully, fingers crossed, they can get themselves back into the top flight in France. But again, it's a club that I don't really know too much about. And, this current season at the moment, I'm not sure where they are this current season. That shows how much Wikipedia is updated for the French leagues. It's not even updated on there. So there we go. But I tell you what, let's go to something that I know absolutely nothing about. I hope you've got some bits and pieces, Matt, and hopefully you know a bit, Matty, as well. But Auckland FC, firstly, what are they all about?
Well, I was hoping. I'm actually been talking to. I mean, considering they haven't, I don't think they kicked off yet in their league. I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. No, I don't think they have. I think it's a bit later.
They've already got a fan channel.
Yeah.
And they've done 2 podcasts on their fan channel, and I've been speaking to them recently, and I was hoping to get them to record some bit for this segment, but unfortunately they haven't got back to me. But I mean, we know very, very little about this. I mean, I mean, from our perspective, we've already loaned them a player in Alex Poulsen, who played for their main rivals.
Yes, Wellington Phoenix.
Wellington Phoenix.
Yeah, that's cheered them up, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it caused a massive stir, didn't it, at the time? And I think it actually took I think they announced it, and then I think it took about a week or 2 weeks for it to actually be approved by the Football League out there because of some transfer rule they've got. So we've already helped him out in terms of a very talented goalkeeper. I noticed that their shirts were obviously black stripes, but with blue instead of red. But other than that, in all fairness, I don't know much about him. I think he's obviously got the sole ownership of this club like he has at Bournemouth, hasn't he?
Yes.
This is his franchise, so he's calling all the shots. And I would imagine he's, from what I've read, is that he's going to use it to feed players in from some of the other clubs, some of the youth and youngsters, and that to try and give them some first team football. But other than that, I'd imagine it's a similar model to what he's doing at what he's done at Bournemouth and what he's trying to put into practice at Hibs in terms of the hospitality side. I imagine it's going to have a top-notch hospitality match day experience. But yeah, other than that, mate, I am absolutely clueless.
Matty, what do you know about this? It is a new franchise as well, and we were just talking about that.
Not too much. I think one of the big benefits for Foley is having a presence in the A League over there is in recruitment, isn't it? Like to be able to kind of capture players that are in that market, bring them in cheaply, and then develop them through the group. So whether they go Australia to Scotland to France to England or skip a step along the way, bit of a culture shock going from Australia to Edinburgh, I would imagine. But I think that's a big benefit for him is he kind of gets that Australasian market where any players that are sort of kicking about that area, they can recruit them at a decent price, and then once they're in the group, it's much easier for him to bring them to the Premier League than it is if they weren't.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm just having a quick look actually. Have a guess who their manager is, Matt? You'll remember him.
Would I know him? Would I?
Yeah.
Give us a clue. Give us one clue.
Well, I know Chris from Leicester Till I Die would definitely. He played for Leicester, Wolves, and Walsall, and I believe
Leicester, Wolves, and Walsall.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Did he play against us in? No. 98 would have been a little bit before.
Oh God,
He would have been at
that's
Wolves. No, he would have been at
Division
Wolves.
2 then. Born for Division 2.
Yeah, of course.
England, is he England international?
No, he's Australian.
Australian?
Yeah. You'll know the name as soon as I mention it.
I'll probably kick myself. Go on then.
Steve Corica.
Oh, is it?
Yep, Steve Corica.
I wouldn't have guessed that one. Wouldn't have guessed that one.
So he is the manager at this new club. So it's an interesting one. It is the American model, isn't it? Where they start franchises. Of course, Vegas Golden Knights was a franchise. He didn't move an existing club, and this is a bit alien to English and Scottish fans, where somebody moves a club from one area to the other. There's only been one occasion when that's happened in England. Of course, that is Wimbledon to Milton Keynes, which went down like a lead balloon, put nicely. But yeah, of course, in American sport, and it seems like also in the A-League, this sort of thing does happen. But it's a new franchise. It'll be quite interesting to see what he does, and seeing a couple more players going over there. Will be it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I tell you what, Matt, there's some other news that's come out, and in fact, it's quite good timing this, because Bill Foley is looking to extend the group with another club. And that club, let's bring it up here, a Portuguese club. Now, do you know anything about this Portuguese club? Because I thought as soon as I saw the name, and this is me being me, I thought, oh, he's trying to bring on an Italian club. So I was completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally just seen the report this morning. But yeah, I've got no idea. I've never even heard of him.
No,
I think they've been recently promoted to the top division.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of the actual club itself, I've no idea.
So this is what is being said in the media. So Bournemouth owner Bill Foley is looking to purchase a club in Portugal to add to his Black Knight multi-club group amid talks with Lisbon club Casa Pia. I thought it said Pisa. which of course is the Leaning Tower. I thought it was something to do with that. That's why I got the Italian bit. Negotiations with the Lisbon club remain at an early stage as alternatives are considered. The Portuguese Top Flight outfit also have interest from other US-based investors, but they are attractive as Portugal, and particularly Lisbon, is a hotbed of domestic talent, with the league becoming an important first step for South American talent when coming to Europe. Foley 79 is the lead investor in Black Knight Sports and Entertainment Consortium, which begun building a city football group like model pioneered by Manchester City's Abu Dhabi based owners to be competitive within football. The group first bought National Hockey League franchise Vegas Golden Knights before moving into football with Bournemouth in 2022. So, who the hell are Casa Pia Atletico Club? Casa Pia Atletico Club is a Portuguese multi-sports club founded in 1920. Now, that is common with Spanish and Portuguese clubs. Real Madrid, I believe, and Barcelona have even got, haven't they got basketball teams or something, haven't they, as well? Something like that, haven't they? I'm
Something
sure
crazy like that.
yeah, I'm sure they have. And they're based in Lisbon, Portugal, best known for its professional football team that competes in the Premier League. The club is named after Casa Pia, a Portuguese children's charity, and many of its athletes come from that institution. Its football stadium is the Estadio Pina Manique. I said that quite well there. Named in honour of Pina Manique, the founder of Casa Pia's children's charity. Casa Pia AC was one of the most versatile Portuguese clubs, having played 25 sports, with the curiosity of having been the only one that practiced baseball regularly, beating the strong team of the American colony on the 4th of July 1923 at the Campo das Laranjeiras by 25-24. I remember that one. Joking. On the 18th of December 1921, when Portugal made their international debut against Spain in Madrid, Casa Pia FC provided the squad with 4 players in a 1-3-1 loss, including Candido de Oliveira, who was the team captain. Casa Pia promoted from Serie E of the Terceira division, let's say, to the centre group of Portuguese second division in 2009-10 as champions. They were promoted again to Liga Pro in 2019 after a hiatus of 83 years. The team were promoted to the Premier League in 2022-23 season. Oh, that was a tongue tie twister, wasn't it? So this seems like it's a bit of this is an interesting one, because of course what is traditionally a very small club, this echoes of Bournemouth, doesn't it really, Matt?
I think they're a lot further in terms of development wise, way behind. I mean, their stadium looks like something that probably plays in the Conference League, if not lower.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more development there, but at the same time, I think if you read into it, it's looks like it's going to be used to channel players through from South America.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And the one thing that makes me wonder about that, though, is, of course, bringing up, of course, with player registrations. I don't know how this all works, but with player registrations, because what you used to be able to do is send over somebody from South America to play in a Portuguese league, for example, and they'd then come to the UK because they are then classed after a set time as a EU national. I guess that there's some sort of, I haven't looked into this, but I'm sure there's probably some sort of plan on that as well. Well, yeah. I tell you what, let's just cover ourselves very, very quickly, because the thing is of course, we're part of this. Foley's impact at AFC Bournemouth has been tremendous, hasn't it, Matt? And Matty, it'd be good to get your views on it first, actually.
Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, Bournemouth look like a team who are punching well above their weight. I think they've got a good player recruitment model. I think they've invested in all the right areas to kind of make sure that all the controllables, like all the setup, like so having a good training centre, having good facilities, buying the best talent you can afford, having good coaches. I think they've gone about it, the business in the right way. And I think it looks like it's a sustainable model, which is a big thing. So not becoming a yo-yo club, so to retaining Premiership status and then building from there. I think they are the model of how a club should be run at the moment. If in that sort of world, if you've got the resources that English Premiership clubs have, then you would want to run like a Bournemouth or a Brighton or that type of club.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's I mean, for me, obviously Foley's been here for a couple of years now, and the club's in safe hands. I think that's the main thing for me, is that, obviously all the troubles and that Bournemouth have been through over, the last sort of 20, 30, 40 years. Our last two owners were both good custodians of the club, and Bill's carrying that trend on, but has taken it to a completely different level. Everything from hospitality, match day experience, the training ground, when that's finished, that is going to be, like we've touched on earlier, something else. And then we can look forward to, a new stadium, which looks like it's going in behind, just to the left, right of this picture. A new stadium in behind where the current training ground is. So, his impact's been absolutely massive. I think every Bournemouth fan, if they were supporting Bournemouth 25 years ago, will probably be really appreciating the position the club's in now. And, I think it's a good network of clubs that Bill's building. And I think, each club's going to benefit from it in a different way.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's unrecognisable from the club years ago, isn't it, now? It's a whole different world. But I tell you what, let's quickly, before we finish up, let's give the answer to our guest, the Cherry. Let's bring that back up on the screen now. So, do you want me to run through the
clues you can
again?
Yeah.
So, born in February 2022, born in February 1992, signed by Eddie Howe from Coventry, played 187 times for Bournemouth, scoring 67 times, made his first senior appearance for England while at Dean Court, scoring in the 77th minute against the USA, was part of the 2022 World Cup squad. Who wants to have a go and tell us who this is?
Well, I obviously know it is, but
I know you do.
I had the faintest idea.
No idea. Okay,
I know just who it is. Callum Wilson, of course. You didn't wait for me to answer then, Matt.
No, it was obvious. It was the most easiest one. It was the most easiest one we've had. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matty, before you go, can you tell everybody where your channel is?
Yeah, you get us on YouTube. You'll find us Long Bangers Podcast, or on Patreon. Just search Long Bangers as well, or wherever you get your podcast. Really, just chuck that in, and there we will be.
Excellent stuff. Thank you
so
much.
Can I just quickly ask, why is the name Long Bangers?
Right. Everybody asks us. So Long Bangers was a game we played as kids when there's only two of you out with a football, and you would stand at either end of whatever small pitch you'd made, and you just take shots into each other. So you'd be goalie and striker together. So it sort of stems for that, and it sounds a bit rude, so
I think it's great.
That's why I pick it. Yeah.
When I found you on YouTube, I thought, wow, what a great name. But yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for coming on, Matty, and not a problem at all. Everybody do check out our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. Here's a little bit about them now. find out what they can do, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Until the next one, thank you for everybody for watching, I should say. I'll put my teeth in a second, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.